So I was born in exile.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah,
Okay.
so my dad was fighting against Ziaul Haq. I remember even when he started defending Asia Baby.
Yes.
I went up to him
Yeah.
and told him that, you know, we live in a relatively poor country.
Right.
Here they don't understand what you're saying.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, they think that you're committing blasphemy. Imagine trying to defend someone and the people are saying you're committing blasphemy.
Right. Assalamualaikum everyone, my name's Nitasha and I'm the host of Shaam Ki Chai, where we talk to really cool Pakistanis and bring their stories to you. आज हमारा शो जो है वो कोलैब्स ने पावर किया है. हम जो हैं बहुत सारे पाकिस्तानी entrepreneurs, founders और startups से बात कर रहे हैं. And today we have an incredible serial entrepreneur on our show, Shahbaz Taseer. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Shahbaz, you have an incredible story of resilience, but before we get into that, I want to learn a bit more about what you do. You have so many businesses, and so tell me a little bit about those businesses and what you do in Pakistan.
So we are primarily, I work in a real estate company.
Achha.
And we give like an end-to-end solution. I work in a public limited company, but we have a private company as well, and then we've got private public companies as well. We had Pakistan's first modern shopping mall.
That's awesome.
So yeah, and it was amazing because, you know, people from a certain class in Pakistan, they're so used to some of the privileges that they have that they kind of just take it as it's very nonchalant to see things. But people used to come from all over Pakistan in the 90s and 2000s just to see the escalators.
That's wild.
And to see like a mall that was centrally air conditioned.
Yeah. I remember Park Towers jab khula tha Karachi.
Yeah, it was just like that.
Yeah,
it was, and now like when you look at it, of course they're 30, you know, odd years old buildings.
Yeah.
But they were revolutionary at their time in this country. But today, you know, we've got hotels, we've got apartments, we've got shopping malls, housing, and it's a wonderful company. We work, you know, in joint ventures with lots of people. And so, you know, that's actually what I do. I was telling you before we started talking that I think after my kids and my wife and my family, it's the most important part, like thing, you know, in my life, because the routine is so important. And I'm someone, you know, all of us are conditioned in a certain way since we're kids to wake up, go to school, work, you know, whatever the circuit is. And when you're removed from it, it becomes very difficult to get back into it.
Right.
So I've, you know, spent the last 7-8 years that I've been back just focusing on this. And you know, family has not been as challenging. Nothing has been as challenging as normalizing my routine.
Yeah, you talk about family a lot in you know, the interviews that I've read about you and the videos that I've seen, and you tell us a lot about your father and the values that he embodied, you know, and he really believed in, you know, Jinnah's version of Pakistan, which, you know, for lack of a better word, was, you know, you're protecting different religions, protecting different minorities, having religious freedom within a country. And so can you tell me a little bit about your childhood and how you were raised with those values? Like how was that implemented in your day-to-day life growing up?
So I was born in exile.
Oh, tell me more.
Yeah,
okay.
So my dad was fighting against Ziaul Haq, but in the 80s, Pakistan has never seen that kind of brutality unleashed on its people by the military. That's what Ziaul Haq did to this country. And my father was one of the few people who stood up against him and spent 10 years in and out of jail, being tortured in solitary confinement. So the first 10 years of my life, these were my lessons. The thing is that, like, I went to Eton College when I was 5 or 6. I can't remember however old you are when you go in class 1. And I remember there were other politicians' children in class with me, and some of their parents were in jail. And other kids would mock them. You know, your dad's in jail because he's a thief, your dad's in jail because he did this, your dad's in jail because he's corrupt. But nobody ever said anything to me. And I found it very strange. But even those children, you know, we get information through our parents. But when their parents would tell them that Shahbaz's father is in jail, they'd say because he's a hero.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I was never mocked, and I grew up knowing that my father's in jail because he's not fighting for myself or for himself.
Right.
He's actually fighting for people that are less privileged than any of us. We're born in privilege. We take so many things for granted.
Right.
It's difficult to put those values in your kids, especially when you've done well in life, and then and they subsequently live off that.
Yes, of course.
But you know, it's also very difficult when you're growing up to see your father going through this. I remember once I went to Services Hospital in Lahore, and my father had been tortured all night. And when I walked in, my younger brother and I were there, we saw him on the bed, and he couldn't move, but he saw us and his eyes lit up, you know? And we were so sad, we just went and hugged him. I get emotional when I even think about it because it's been so long. I miss him, you know. This month is difficult for me because he was killed on the 4th of Jan.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So, but yeah, you know, and it really broke my heart. And I remember even when he started defending Asia Baby.
Yes.
I went up to him and told him that, you know, we live in a relatively poor country.
Right.
They don't understand what you're saying.
Yes.
You know, they think that you're committing blasphemy. Imagine trying to defend someone and the people are saying you're committing blasphemy.
Right.
So I said, you should leave this in my mind, in my own mind, it's not worth it, right?
You're looking at him as a son. You're his son, right? You're like, you know,
And in my entire life, my father has never looked at me with disappointment, but there was a slight bit of disappointment and a little bit of anger when he looked at me and he said, I'm not doing this for you.
Right.
And I'm not doing this for these Maulvis that are giving fatwas against me.
Yeah.
I have to answer to Allah.
Right.
And I have to tell him why I didn't protect this woman.
Yes.
And, you know, I always wondered, because as much as, you know, we try to grow and improve as human beings, I don't have that sense of responsibility over somebody else, maybe my children, and I always feel very selfish about why is this concern so limited, considering that my father's concern was not at all concentrated on his family. You know, he was more concerned about how the driver's son was doing, whether he was getting a proper education, and then after he got that education, did he get a job? The follow-up on that was more important than like, you know, and it's not that, you know, sometimes it causes bitterness or resentment, but we were so proud of him. Like, you know, you see this man, and you see his concern, and you see what he wakes up in the morning to do, and you know what makes him happy. And it's so much bigger than what makes average people content and happy.
Of course.
So, you know, those were the good things that I saw, but obviously, in my wildest dreams, I never imagined that I would go through the experience that I went through.
Yeah, let's go into that experience a little bit. So you were kidnapped in 2011, and you were held in captivity until 2016. The Guardian sort of labeled your kidnapping as the most high-profile kidnapping in Pakistan. And so tell me a bit about the moment that you were taken, and you know what's going through your head, what happened, and what was this experience like?
It's a very unique honor to be the most high-profile kidnapper. Because I have friends who were kidnapped and they're like, well, I'm quite high-profile.
Yeah, it's like, my kidnapping is better than your kidnapping.
No, but it's crazy, you know, it's so funny that I can laugh about it now. I remember when they said my ransom, and I laugh about that now as well, but I was sitting this is more civilized, but you know, just like these wonderful men here, instead of being behind the camera, they were behind me in masks and guns, and you know, a wonderful moderator in front of the camera, and they asked at the time for $60 million, and the Kalashnikovs and the grenades, and they become a lot more real for you.
Right.
And it's so fun. Like, obviously I find it hilarious now, but at the time it was a noose around my neck. It was a death sentence. There was no one in the world that was going to pay that kind of money for me.
Well, they also asked for 25 militants to be released, right?
Yeah, and also those wonderful men were the highest ranking in their individual fields, which is so easy to say, but when you're asking for the for the head of, the Taliban, foreign relations and torture chambers.
Right, yeah.
So nobody wants to release these guys.
Yeah.
You also capture them with great difficulty because when I tell you that they're faceless, literally the position is faceless.
Okay.
If the person there dies for any reason, he's replaced, and it's the replacement policy is so quick that you can't even keep up with it.
Yeah.
The worst part about all of it was that the number one name on the list was my father's murderer.
That's insane.
And so besides this I've never been able to explain it. Fear is something all of us have felt.
Sure.
We've all been scared, we've all been fearful of a situation, but it was a kind of emptiness and fear that I'd never experienced because I knew that I was going to die because of what the demand was.
Right.
And the worst part about it was that if I didn't die,
yeah.
and for any reason this demand was met, I would live the rest of my life being the guy who walked to his freedom as his father's murderer walked to his.
Yeah.
And what kind of a life is that?
Yeah, no. No, yeah. Well, it's interesting because you mentioned that eventually they claimed him as being non-Muslim.
Yeah,
right?
That's really funny.
So tell me about that. How did he come from being at the top of their list to like being a kafir all of a sudden?
So the fighters that are inspired by Islamic text and call themselves militants, they're usually Sunnis.
Okay.
And they come from two schools of thoughts, Hanafism and Salafism.
Okay.
Mainly. This is 99%.
Okay.
What happens, and by the way, don't confuse this with declaring Hamas a terrorist group or the Iranian regime. I'm talking about militants that properly operate and as terrorist groups, and everybody, even Muslim countries
recognize them as militants.
There's no concept of, say, freedom fighter, unless of course you talk about the Afghans, which is another confusion.
Sure.
But anyways, two schools of thoughts.
Okay.
And they do not accept any other school of thought as Muslim. So if you say you're a Sufi, which is the school of thought that my father's murderer affiliated with, and they see you going to graves or they see you going to other men and asking for du'as and peers and kafir.
Wow.
Because I still remember the example they gave me was from Surah Yusuf. They said that Allah kept Yusuf alayhi salam in jail longer because he asked a man for help. So why do you go to graves and why do you go to peers when the lesson is in the Quran?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I said, that's fine. I understand the confusion. Why do you have to kill everyone?
Mara to nahi.
Samjha do baat. Marne ki kya zarurat?
Yeah, of course, Wild.
So, my father's killer comes from a different school of thought, more Sufi. I mean, they're very radicalized Sufis. Sufis are very peaceful people, but mainly they come from that. And when they realized that this guy comes from the school of thought, the TLP and all, they basically refer to them as grave worshippers. Right?
Oh, okay.
So their world fell apart. But they're very quick to fix problems as well. They're like big fixers of their issues. So they said, it's okay, this is a political win against the government of Pakistan, and then we'll bring him here and he'll become Muslim.
Okay.
So to that I laughed and said, what about me? I said, why can't you accept me? No, not you, not you, anybody but you. But it's funny when we talk about it now, but they're very dangerous people. And it's also very easy for them to take anyone's life at any time because normal people don't operate like that.
Of course. And that's very interesting because आपने एक अपने interview में कहा था, it did not matter to them that you prayed. Right? And, I was born and raised in the West, and growing up watching Western media, it's always the Islamic terrorist against the West, against Western people, against the white person, right? We never think about the impact of Islamic terrorists on Muslims. Right?
Whereas we have suffered more than any person in any country.
Exactly.
Especially if you're a Pakistani.
Right.
Or Afghani or Iraqi.
Sure.
I think these three countries, and now of course Libya and Syria. But the problem is common. It's Western countries picking sides and causing these massive fallouts in these countries. Now when I was arrested in the US, right, I look like this. So I don't know if I look like a terrorist. He looks more like a terrorist than me. right? He looks more like it because they have a beard. Still they have a beard. I don't even have, like, maybe to zara wo wali beard.
Yeah, you have a hairband, everything.
I was wearing a yellow, वो Lakers की jersey.
अच्छा.
You know, या तो बंदे ने शलवार कुर्ता या काली टी-शर्ट पहनी है, still under. I was wearing a Lakers jersey, asleep. They just came. I was the only Pakistani. They said, you're the only Muslim in Pakistani in San Francisco airport today.
What?
I said, that's just, you know, incredible.
Lord, what the hell?
Yeah. And
that's
it.
God.
And of course, the Taliban, the Uzbeks didn't say that. They said, you're exactly the guy that we were looking for.
Oh, God. Yeah.
But like, you know, jokes aside, Muslims have suffered because of this more than anyone else.
Yes.
Our entire country's family. You cannot... Pakistan, documented, has lost over 100,000 people. That would be over 1 million families affected. Just here, this is... I don't even believe this figure. Right. I don't believe it. I think it must be 10 times more than that.
Yeah.
So when I was arrested in the US, my privilege saved me.
Of course
Because when they said, who are you? I said, I'm the governor of Punjab's son, and right now your Secretary of State is distributing aid with my father.
Yeah.
So my father actually told Senator Kerry. He said, you are in my custody.
Yeah.
How would you like it if I arrest you? There's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So he said, no, I'll fix it. I'll sort it out with your son.
Yeah.
But he was very embarrassed that,
you
know, but my privilege saved me. Imagine if I was an ordinary Pakistani, they wouldn't even ask me. I'd be in Guantanamo Bay on suspicion, and then, you know, God knows what happens.
20 years, Yeah, you talk a lot about also in, you know, the interviews that I've been watching about this silent Pakistani liberal society.
Yeah.
Tell me about them, and why are they silent?
Overall as a country, this country is not extremist.
Yes.
Our people, we might be conservative.
Right.
For example, you know, my mother does this.
Yes.
My sister doesn't do it, but my wife does.
Okay.
Right. The sister is normal as well. The wife is normal as well. There's no issue per se.
Yeah.
When you try to force me towards militancy, ये भाई भी नहीं militant बनेंगे, ये भाई भी नहीं militant बनेंगे, ये भाई भी नहीं militant बनेंगे, हम में से कोई बंदा जो है ना militancy को reject करेगा.
Right.
Politically रायलाप हो जाएंगे, दीन पे रायलाप हो जाएंगे, मगर militancy को हम reject करते हैं. हमें ज़रूरत नहीं है, हमारी फौज है, हमारी पुलिस है, हमारी सियासी पार्टीज हैं, हमने क्या जाके लड़ना है, इन सब की क्या ज़रूरत है?
Right.
You know what I mean? तो हम extremist लोग नहीं हैं. हम बिल्कुल Pakistanis are not extremists.
No, we're not. Yeah.
So ये एक चीज़ है. अब इस कमरे में ये मेरे से फ़र्क हैं, ये मेरे से फ़र्क हैं, ये मेरे से फ़र्क हैं, आप मेरे से फ़र्क हैं. मगर अगर एक आदमी इस कमरे में गन लेके आ गया तो हम 6 लोग इधर होके चुपचाप खड़े होंगे और ये बोलेगा जो भी इसने बोलना है अपनी गन के साथ. एक को गोली भी मार देगा, बाकी 5 जो रह गए वो कहेंगे यार हमने बोलना है, मतलब that's it. और यही हुआ था मेरे वालिद साहब के साथ.
अच्छा.
इस मुल्क में कोई ऐसा आदमी नहीं है जो कहता है एक बेकसूर आदमी को उसके दीन की वजह से मार दो. कोई ऐसा ना, कोई ये इस्लाम में इस तरह की सोच की इजाज़त है और ना कोई मैं मानता हूँ कि पाकिस्तानी इस तरह सोचता है. कुछ लोग होते हैं, हम अनपढ़ नहीं हैं, हमारे गुर्बत भी है इस मुल्क में, वो सारे मसले हैं, मगर लॉजिकली जब आप किसी से बात करें तो वो उनको मसला समझाएं वो नहीं ये मानेंगे.
सही.
तो जब ये एक आदमी ने गवर्नर विच इज़, मतलब अगर आप हायरार्की में देखें तो पाकिस्तान के 10 सबसे ताकतवर लोगों में गवर्नर पंजाब कहीं ना कहीं फिट आ जाता है. बिल्कुल. तो जब आप उनको इस्लामाबाद में, कैपिटल ऑफ पाकिस्तान में कत्ल करेंगे एक इशू के ऊपर, कौन बोलेगा? गवर्नर को मार दिया तो फिर कौन बोलेगा? चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ बोलेगा. क्यों बोलेगा? गवर्नर के गार्ड ने मारा है, उसका शायद गार्ड मार दे. प्राइम मिनिस्टर बोलेगा. क्यों बोलेगा? गवर्नर के. जस्ट थिंक ऑफ द सिक्योरिटी mishap that took place.
Right.
So they're all quiet.
Right.
Everyone is quiet because you know मेरे अब्बू मुझे कहते थे, जब मैं उनसे कहता था आपको ज़रूरत क्या है, मतलब मेरे बारे में तो मेरी टीचर मुझे चपेट मारे मेरे लिए नहीं, आप कुछ कहते कि गरीब लोगों और इस तरह के लोगों के पीछे आप भाग रहे होते हैं. तो he used to look at me and just say कि तुम्हें मैंने पढ़ाया है, लिखाया है, खिलाया है कि तुम अपने पैरों पे खड़े हो. मगर जो आदमी अपनी मदद नहीं कर सकता यार, तो फिर क्या मुझे ये अल्लाह ने क्यों दिया?
बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं.
I was telling you about वो, you know, मेरी जो कंसर्न है ना, जो मेरे बच्चों के लिए, वो शायद और किसी के लिए नहीं है, लेकिन like I was trying to tell you, my father was very different. His concern for other people and their problems was a lot more than his own problems. So yeah, so that's.
So what do we then? How like लोग बोलना शुरू कैसे होंगे?
मैं भी मौलवियों से आज डरता हूँ. 100 आ गया तो हमने क्या करना है? सही है ना? मगर उस तरह नहीं डरता.
अच्छा.
सही है. मैं इतनी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ गया हूँ, मैं स्कूल्स गया हूँ, मैं वर्किंग लोगों से मिला हूँ, मैं एजुकेटेड लोगों से मिला हूँ, मैं अनएजुकेटेड लोगों से, सारे एक कंसेंसस पे हैं कि ये जो आपकी सोसाइटी के अंदर एक्सट्रीमिज्म आता है ना, ये हमसे नहीं आता, ये कहीं और से ही आता है. और ये सालों से यही हरकत कर रहे हैं और ये इन लोगों को यूज़ करते हैं टूल्स के लिए अपनी काइंड ऑफ बैकडोर सियासत के लिए. मगर वो खतरनाक होंगे ये लोग सब फ्रॉड हैं. इस्लाम कहता है फॉलो करना है तो मुकम्मल तौर पे करो, वरना जो कर रहे हो करो. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. यस. सो हाउ डू यू कंफ्यूज दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान फॉर अल्लाह's वर्ड? एंड क्यों एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो असेंबलियों में बना है, असेंबलियों में डिबेट नहीं हो सकता? आज लोग बहुत तंग आ गए हैं इससे. तो आज अगर आप शहबाज तासीर को भी मार दें उसका कोई फर्क नहीं. वो भी बोलेंगे, वो कहेंगे ये जुल्म है, ये भी बेवकूफ़ था, ये झूठा है, ये वो. अब कोई किसी सियासतदान और किसी आदमी से नहीं डरता. और ये बाय द वे बहुत बड़ी बात है पाकिस्तान के लिए. बिल्कुल. हम एक मुल्क हैं जो प्राइमरीली फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स और ज़मींदार चलाते हैं. तो इधर तो हमारी कंडीशनिंग ऐसी हुई है कि हम बोल नहीं सकते. तो अब हम बोल रहे हैं, दिस इज कंट्री ऑफ 250 मिलियन पीपल. जब ये लोग बोलेंगे तो मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि वो इमरान खान की सपोर्ट में बोलेंगे. जब ये अपने हक के लिए बोलेंगे तो ये जितनी भी पावर्स टू बी हैं, चाहे वो मौलवी हैं, वो फौजी हैं, वो हुक्मरान हैं, वो सारे उनको बैठ के सुनना होगा. बिल्कुल बिल्कुल सुनना होगा. अच्छा, आप हमें बताइए, what's next for you? Not a second book because I don't plan on getting kidnapped. I don't know. Life has been like a gift. I've been traveling. I've been enjoying my children. Right. I've been working really hard on this product and getting the story across to people. I'm loving my work life as well. My mother really wants me to write a second book. My brother and my wife, my mother and my sister really want me to write a second book, and my brother and my wife want me to make the first book into visual, like a
cool.
film or a documentary, something that people can visually also. And the book has sold more in Pakistan than anywhere else in the world. Amazing. So that's, and it's not a Pakistani product, so it's priced in dollars as well. It's an expensive book, and the fact that people have gone and bought them. I was doing a talk in a school or a college, I can't remember, 10 years to remember, but I think out of 100 people, 80 of them had the book. That's incredible. And the other 20 were like, that's really unfair because nobody told us to bring it. And one of them was like, well, I'm a teacher, so let me just tell you, 30 people are reading my book. So no, that's incredible. That's the nicest thing that someone can do. Too, so.
That's incredible, and we're very excited for you. Thank you very much, and thank you for being on our show. It was great. It was great to talk to you, and thank you guys for watching. I will be with you next time with another episode of Shaam Ki Chai. Allah Hafiz.